What's happening? How's it going, Brian?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Doing well. Thanks for jumping in, man.
Yeah, no, I'm proud to be here. I was here last week. It was really good. So I wanted to, catch again this week, see what kind of deals people bring, and just that whole, analysis of just, all the numbers is really fascinating because I've looked at businesses before, but I didn't have that, in-depth perspective. And I'm like, well, this is a good business. Like, kind of looks good, but maybe not. Like, what about this? Like, it's
Yep.
just all those things to think about.
Yeah. Well, and like, right, like, am I going to stay in it? Am I not going to be in it? Like, what are the purpose? What's the purpose and who am I as the buyer?
Exactly. Exactly.
Awesome, man. I'm glad you got value from it.
Yeah, for sure. That was good.
Good. I'm glad. How's it going, everybody? I see Alejandros is back. Is it Alexandros or Alejandros? How do you say it?
Alexandros.
Alexandros. Okay, cool.
Yes.
Just wanted to be
How's
sure.
everything?
Doing well. You?
I'm doing okay.
Yeah.
I'm
Good.
back to see what's new.
All right.
How we
Sounds
can
like
buy a business? How can we buy a business? $10 million business. How can we buy it?
you got to find it first. Go find it and we'll go buy it. Let's make it happen. Start with that.
I'm,
Find the deal.
I am in. Let me, whatever I learned today, I'm going back to my laptop tonight after work. I'm start looking, start
Awesome.
searching
Sounds
all
good.
day.
I love it. Let's make it happen.
Okay. Okay. No problem.
Awesome. Courtney, how are you today?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
Doing great. Thanks. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, for sure.
What's going on in your world?
So I am powering through some of the recordings that I missed. And so I'm all caught up. I think one of the things I am thinking about right now is like trying to figure out kind of what type of business and like what my skills like.
The one that makes money.
Yeah.
That's all you
Certainly
need.
that. I think it's challenging. So I was a software engineer for 12 years and then was a product manager. I've worked in government and startups all over the place. And so I think there's part of me that's gravitating obviously towards technology and an online business. But when I look around, there's like just a million Amazon FBA stores for sale or like some other random niche, I'm sure like Shopify store. So it's a little hard to parse through what is a real business, right? Like that actually has legs. And then I just think about on the flip side, if you have some service-based business, I feel like I keep kind of in the back of my mind hearing like waste management. I don't know why, but like something that feels like really grounded. It's not going anywhere. Like no matter what the economy does, everybody needs waste management or haul away or something like that. And then how can I apply tech and like my skills to something like that? I feel like that's where I keep trying to figure out is like, where should my focus be?
Got it. Marley, I'm going to let you, if you're willing to jump in on that. I have some thoughts, but Marley is very good at big picture, looking at structure of things, and I'm happy to jump in as well. But like I know Marley has a good concept of that since she has been in corporate in the tech field, and she knows that thing. So if you need me to jump in, Marley, let me know at any point. I'll happily join in.
Yeah, I'm just gonna warn you guys now. My kids returned to school, so the super bugs have taken me down. So if my voice goes out, I apologize. Like Shane said, I've been in the tech corporate space for a long time, so I can definitely I don't want to say sympathize because but I have a shared journey. Not as a software engineer, but as a COO in the space. And I like your thought process around finding something that's more service-based, something that everyone needs, and applying your special sauce, your skills to it to optimize and bring out the most potential possible. That said, before even like diving into like the right spaces for you, what really makes your soul glow? Like when you start your work for the day, what will make you feel like you're not really working? Does that make sense? What do you enjoy doing?
Definitely. I have a hat somewhere else in the house that I'll maybe wear on our call next week that says Solvum Probler. And it is basically like I really love taking a kind of a complex system and automating it, making it feel streamlined, creating a superior user experience, like those types of things. I feel like at the end of the day, if I have elevated the kind of ease of task completion or just provided kind of like superior service utilizing technology or a system, I feel like it's great. So I think that is why I gravitate a little bit towards like service-based businesses. Like we just moved into our house in April. We've had everyone from general contractors to plumbers to electricians. And every time I meet one, they're all very nice and are like texting me like, screenshots of invoices or like, quotes are, it's like all very all over the place.
Disconnected.
So I think about that a lot, and how most of those people are not really trying to run their business. They're like individuals that are like electricians who are really good at understanding, what type of voltage we need in the garage to support all the, but they're not, they don't want to be spending all their time like creating invoices and all of that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I think about applying my skills to that kind of stuff.
Yeah, okay. So that was gonna be, that was my assumption, but I didn't want to assume. So to me, it sounds like you are a true operator. You get excited by solving big complex problems, which again, I'm very similar. Like that actually gets me stoked and ready to start my day. So if that is your skill set, what you enjoy doing, to me, it's less about the industry and more so about the cash flow. Like if you enjoy doing those things and you find a business that at least aligns with your values, like I wouldn't say, there's some things that you may not you may not jive with. Then that would be my primary focus. Like what is the cash flow per month that you would like to see? What is the overall outcome that you're looking to receive? Or do you want to leave your W-2? Do you want to become an owner operator? Do you want to actually run the day-to-day of the business? Does that bring you joy? Or do you think it will? Or do you want to be an acquisition entrepreneur where you buy multiple businesses and roll them up and bolt them on and kind of oversee a complex system of businesses? So I think that's where I would start personally.
And I love that
That's a
because,
great place to start.
sorry, didn't mean to cut you off. I love that because, what Marley and I are doing and Jalen as well, like we are looking at things in this, like, where are we going versus where are we starting, right? Because the stuff from here to there, we can add whatever we need to get there, but it's about the end goal, right? A lot of times we get stuck on, I have to get my first business or I have to do my first thing. If it doesn't support the final thing, why are you going to focus on the one thing, right? So making sure that that final thing is your guiding light, and everything else underneath of that, everything you do, it might be 3, 4, 7 different ways to get to that one thing, but everything funnels together as long as you still have that goal in mind. So keep that thought process, because from what it sounds like to Marley, like in the end, you may or may not want to operate everything, right? Like I think all of our goals are to be hands off or want to be owner investors, but we also know that you got to dig into the trenches in the beginning and get it operational, and then you can be like, okay, who's my ops person to take this over? And so making sure, and right now it might be cool. Maybe I have to jump in with someone and learn from the ground up in one business, get their ops going, and then okay, all right, now I can step back from that and now do my own thing and start doing this over here, right? So it might be experience from the ground up in a acquisition, not from a startup. You've done startups before, you know how messy that gets, right? And so maybe it's just being part of a process with another team bringing your value to a state where you're learning so much, and then it's like, cool, now I can go be on a team that values jumping into other stuff myself as well, right? That's something that we like to look at who we're working with, and we always say that, right? Like, if we want everyone to grow, like everyone in here, we're doing this because we want to help each other out. So keep that in mind as you think of it. But yeah, Marley and I have talked about this. Like, it does not matter the business. Like, I think we started out with service industry, and now we're doing a SaaS, right? Two very different worlds. All operations are still the same. All marketing is still the same. Like, it's really, it's about the systems, right? And how do you optimize that?
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Does anyone else have anything they want to share before we jump into it? Or does anyone have a business they want us to look at? Because that's, as we're going through these, as you're looking at businesses this week, folks, get those businesses and start pulling them together, ones that you think might fit. Today we have a potential, if anyone has a business, we'd love to talk about it. If they don't, we have a potential opportunity to talk about a sim that we've redacted, so you can see a full scale one as well. So if anyone has a business they want us to look at and kind of give feedback, we would love to do that live. Otherwise, we have another one that we can also do. All right, what I'll do is I will bring up the one that we have, and we'll go through this one together so that we have an opportunity to talk through it. Marley, do you have it in your email? Can I have you bring it up?
Yeah, give me 1 second.
Okay.
Set down my tea.
Oh, sorry, I learned the new phrase, talk tea. I don't never have.
I've never used that with you before? Oh.
Maybe you have, but I've learned this, just learned it recently, and I used it in a
Oh.
sentence the other day, so now it's real in my brain. So I was like, "Did I use that right, honey?" And she goes, "Yeah, you did." I was like, "Yes." Like, all right,
Yeah.
cool. We talked about the gossip today. Talk tea.
Yes, that's the best. But my physical tea is definitely serving me better.
Good. Yes.
Give
was
me 1 second. So I don't think I could share my screen on the PDF viewer.
Oh no, can you share your desktop?
Hold on.
So I wanted to, while Marley's looking that up, so as we're doing this, I just wanted to point out Jalen. I'm going to pull him up on screen real quick. He is part of our team. And Jalen is basically our ops person. He's the guy behind the scenes. He is the master of I don't know what you'd call it. I wanted to come up with a funny phrase or fun phrase, but he's the one that's doing all the stuff in the background. Like he went through and he redacted this for us to make this happen. He's doing all the email campaign stuff. So as you're communicating with us, Jalen is a powerhouse. So if you have questions, if you have thoughts, and you have information that need to get to us or through us, or if we don't answer properly right away, Jalen is the go-to person to make sure that things operate, because he's kick ass. So I just want to let you know that. You can tell by his headset, right? Like he's ready to fly a plane.
Serious business, yeah.
Yeah, so one of these guys right here.
Yeah, told you we need call signs.
Yeah.
Gotta rock and roll. And I need to get a headset now. You two are like, you got me all. There's 3 people in this call now that's got me outnumbered. I gotta start. Awesome. Thanks for following up, Marley. Thank you, Jalen. So really quick, so this is the sim. So we have taken this, we've redacted as much as we could so that you can't see who the people are. But we took out, if you were going to give us something to do, we would love for you to redact this in advance. That would save Jalen and us a lot of time so that we don't have to do this before the meetings. But if you can, and you need help and you're not 100% sure, we can definitely give you a hand with that. But we want to be able to use these opportunities for you to bring us deals, right? So that we can feed into what you're trying to do instead of us just saying, here's a deal, right? So last week, we feel like that was a good opportunity for our first one when we talked about the daycare or the child care facility. Today, we're going to talk about specifically, and Courtney, something that ties into what you're talking about is specifically construction management. So this is a commercial and industrial construction management company, not a residential, but this business is almost fully remote, Marley, is that correct?
Fully virtual, yeah. A
So-
fully virtual GC business.
And they have stuff all across the nation. And so they have in all 50 states, I think, almost all 50 states they do work.
Yes.
So pretty intense business. And we put an offer in on this one, and they were like, nope, that's not anywhere near what we're asking. We have offers that are higher than that. Like, okay, that's fine, right? So that you're gonna end up doing volume when you go through all this, folks. It's a volume game and it's a numbers game. So if it doesn't work numbers wise, then you don't offer it, right? So just be aware of that. So I'm gonna let Marley talk to a couple different pieces of this, and Marley, let me tell me when to jump in on different parts. But essentially, this is a really, really good example of a sim. Like, it's
Very
really in
particular.
depth, very particular. And Marley, like, she's like, "Oh, let's do this one." So that's what she said when we were talking about which one to do. She said, "This one, this one." So she got really excited.
Yes, it's the best example. It's the shining star. You will not see a lot of these. Most of them will be varying degrees just based upon how good or not great their brokers are.
Mhm.
Okay, so let's see here. Something interesting about this business, most of the time you will see an asking offer, or asking price when you're scouring the internet or talking to brokers. And what was different about this one was it was more so like an auction based situation. So they wanted just your best possible offer right out the gate. I don't love that, especially because you can end up overpaying very easily, or you can end up providing a very low offer for fear of overpaying and possibly insulting the broker or insulting the seller. So it's just something to consider. I know, as Shane said, like when we put in our offer, we had looked through a variety of businesses in the same space and looked at based off of, similar revenues, which I think they're doing like 20 million a year or something. We'll
Yep.
get to the financials, but somewhere around the 20 million revenue and a few million in EBITDA. We were seeing a multiple that was, goodness, 2.7. It
I
was
think so. That's what we can do.
2.3 to 2.7. Yeah.
Yep.
So we went in on the high end of that, and of course, still they of course wanted more for their business, understandably. But it doesn't mean that it was a good deal past that point. So you want to make sure you do your research. It's not, business buying is way different than real estate. There's not a exact science or guide as far as valuations go, although there are definitely methods to valuations. But as far as multiples go, it's really just based off of your research, your gut, the business itself. It's going to be a unique scenario each time.
Yeah. Kind of funny
Um,
to say that though. It's off your gut, right? Because in
I know.
reality, it is. It's like every person values their business differently than you would value a house. A house has comparables in the same neighborhood. A business,
Exactly.
they might have $27 million in revenue, $3 million in cash flow, but all the 80% of their clients are from two different vendors or two different clients. So now that value of that business is way less than if it was a spread out one.
Yeah, client concentration risk is a biggie. We'll talk about that later in the sim as well.
Mhm.
Okay, so we see here that they of course will have a section that they won't be competing, which is great. Let's see. Financial performance. So they just gave like the high end summary of what their sales were across 4 different years. That's perfect. Gross profit as well as their adjusted EBITDA. So I think we learned last week what EBITDA or even SDE or what whichever one we're talking about, that you can make adjustments to that number, either add backs or takeaways. So this is their adjusted EBITDA. Again, a nice summary of annual sales year over year. And then here we go. This is what we were talking about with concentration risk. So they have their primary customers that bring the majority of their revenue. So 15 customers, that's not too bad. Now the issue though is when you look at customer 1 and 2, that's 50% of the business that they're doing. So the questions that immediately come to my mind are, is customer 1 and 2 dependent upon relationships? So if Mr. and Mrs. Seller leave, is that one of their really good friends that give them a contract on an annual basis that they plan on? Or is it a long-term, like 5-year government contract? Because those are golden, you know, if you know that you're going to get paid. So you want to dig into that. It's not an immediate no, but you want to understand the backstory for those customers. Again, another like visualization about how much revenue each client brings to the business year over year.
And so again, folks, this is not the common sim, right? The common sim
Not.
you're going to see is what we had last week, which was a one pager, and and then like a balance sheet, or I don't even think that was a balance sheet. What was that?
Yeah, I don't think it was a direct export, which is not ideal, but I think it was just a balance sheet.
So you be aware that this is not the norm. This is what we want. This is what you strive for, but this means that they paid someone to do quite a bit of work to put this together, because they know their business is valued high, because they're doing 20 million in revenue. Like, that's a lot of cash moving through a business.
Yeah. A nice summary for their COGS. So cost of goods and services, showing their adjusted EBITDA.
You know, I'm wondering, looking at 2022, is like, why is that so low? Right. So that's a question that I would want to ask, right? Was there did they lose a contract? Did they have to get a new one? Did the new one is now the new one a 5-year contract? Cool, great. Like, what was that created that? Was it economy, etc.?
Yeah, or what I would guess based off the year, cost of goods coming out of COVID and all that great stuff. So this is always fun. They provided their 2023 actuals as well as a year to date for 2024, and then they provided their forecast for the rest of 2024 and 2025. That is just like purely marketing. I wouldn't absorb that as any true hard fact.
And why is that, Marley? Just to kind of give people an understanding.
Because it's brokers' job to make a business look as beautiful and rosy as possible. That is how they earn their commission, at least if they're doing their job. So they're going to show the absolute best case scenario at all times.
So they chose April as their like, they went into the spreadsheet and said, okay, April of 2023 and the spread between April 2023 and April 2024 shows the biggest jump in revenue and gross, things like that, right?
Yeah.
So they went ahead and said, let's highlight that, right? And then they went to annual. Now, if you look at annual, they didn't show annual from 2023 to 2024. They showed 2024 to potential 2025 and potential 2024, because we're not through it yet. So keep that in mind. Those things are not correlated.
Yes, exactly. See if they read. Sometimes you'll see explanations ahead of time. So when questions are coming up in your mind, again, if you have a good broker that would kind of go through and assume what questions a buyer is going to ask, they will build in sections to speak to it. I was hoping that they would have something here as a good example. No, it's just invoicing. Investment considerations. This is a good a good section. Let me see what they actually called it. Oh, it doesn't look like. But when you can find little nuggets of like where your potential for growing the business is, like that's a key as well. So obviously social media is not big for them. That's an easy thing to turn on when it comes to marketing. And it's a gold mine when you're looking at some small businesses that are just doing phenomenal on word of mouth. Those are my favorite businesses because you can easily come in and add a a marketing strategy. You can easily come in and create a technology and operational strategy to improve the client experience and improve communication with clients and all of that. That just immediately adds value and revenue and efficiency.
Yeah.
So those are great.
Agreed. And so now, just a quick jump into that, right? This is a commercial industrial business, right? So your marketing is going to be different than if you're going to B2C, right? Business to consumer versus B2B, business to business. So they're going B2B for this one, right? They're trying to, so LinkedIn, Alignable, different things like that that are in the business world versus the Facebook social media. There might be, you're going to build a brand on all of those platforms, or at least the platform that has the most at some point, but you're not going to just bombard every single one. You're going to choose one. And I think you would probably be in LinkedIn or somewhere in the commercial industry for this. Also, something like doing, doing ad campaigns, right? A PPC campaign, which is pay per click type business, right? Where you're putting, if you've heard of SEO is search engine optimization. So that's when you go on Google and you type, and then there's that section that's got all the paid ads, and then you go below that because we all pretty much ignore that section a lot of times, at least I do, because I know what it's there for. And you go to the part where you want to get your actual info. But if you're looking for a business, that's a great section to be, because if you searched for construction company or GC company in such and such state in Vermont, you would want to be the top of the list so you can actually target campaign whenever someone searches for that thing or they search for a competitor. You can actually target that competitor's search campaign and then take, like, people see you first before they see your competitor. That's a way for a business that's making this much money. You drop 5,000 into a marketing campaign a month, like, you're gonna do some serious damage through LinkedIn and different places on actually getting more customers. And if you have a budget of what they have, I'm sure they haven't really done any marketing. So if you have that kind of a budget, it's going to do some damage, right?
All right. And it talks about the products and services that they primarily do. Again, sales and marketing, we already kind of discussing, but what exists today helps you start planning for, like, how would you come in and improve the existing. And we haven't gotten to it yet, but if I remember correctly, while they're widespread and basically virtual, they have little to no tech backbone. So they're somehow managing nationally with very little, like, project management software or internal communication tools like a Slack or a Teams or anything like that. So just, I'm saying small isn't the right word, but implementing key resources and tooling in the business, again, just heightens the potential within the business. Let me see here. Customers, purpose licensing, that's great. Oh, this was actually another key part. The current owner held the majority of GC licenses. Some states require you to get licensed to be a GC. Other states don't. So a part of the conversation, of course, would be, I need you, Mr. Seller, to continue to carry the licenses for this business for X period of time to give us the opportunity to find licensed GCs in those states to kind of bring us forward, kind of similar to placing operators or anyone else in the business that has like a key role.
So in a situation like that, Marley, like there's an opportunity, which we've already talked to the broker about this. There's an opportunity for this person to stay on for a limited amount of time while we're transitioning. They're going to have to, right? Until we put someone in that role, right? Me personally, I don't want to get the GC license under my name because it doesn't make sense because I'm not a GC, right? But if I have someone who is going to be the operator for this business who wants to take on all of those pieces, we would go ahead and make sure that person is brought into the business and they have some type of incentive to stay with us, right? That's a big thing because we're going to pay for all their licensing and it's the person that you're getting the licensing with, not the business a lot of times. I mean, there might be some way, but it's usually the person because that's why
It's the individual.
individual. So now you have that person that you're bringing in that's now got all these certifications. They could run off if they want to, just like that's the risk we take, but you want to make it so incentivized for that person to stay. Maybe you give them bonuses, maybe you give them an incentive, a percentage of revenue based on new sales or based on completion of work speed or whatever it is. You've got to think about that role because that's a human you've got to put in there. And based on how they ran this, I don't know how much work that person might need. We might be able to just take someone in the business that's already doing it and say, hey, John, you're already doing our GC stuff. You're our foreman or our GC on all the jobs. Please, can we pay you more?
Yeah. Or even not, well, it's still payment, but a good way to incentivize someone like this is to instill like ownership mentality. So actually giving them a chunk of equity in the business, I believe is what we were originally considering in this scenario.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sorry, go ahead.
No. Go.
So right here where it says right above industry knowledge, company does not complete any bonded general contracting work. So that means that they don't do any work that requires them to take out a extra insurance policy, essentially. Let's say that they built something and the foundation was wrong and it crumbled and something happened, right? That's part of you don't want any claims that you did incomplete work or shoddy work or allegations of like something wrong. So they're saying that's a strong statement that they're saying right there, right? They're saying that they don't need to insure because they've never really had an issue with bonded work for one, and two, they probably don't take government jobs. That's what it sounds like to me. Does that sound right, Marley? Because all government contracts require you to be bonded and licensed. So keep that in mind. This means that they stand by their work. They're pretty consistent people, but they're also not doing any government work. So that also opens up a whole nother revenue stream potential. And that's how I'm reading between the lines that this has potential for growth because they haven't taken on any type of government contracts.
Yeah, it's a great point. Oh, I know we already talked about tech, but here it is. So all they have today is QuickBooks. That is their technology, which is wild to me. I don't know how you can even run a business or how they've been so successful this far, purely working on paper and email and all of that. So again, just like really low hanging fruit to improve this business and the revenue. Payment processing is pretty typical for this industry. So here's another key one. Normally, you will see a section where it talks about owners and their percentages, as well as key employees. So they'll normally talk about like owner A either is completely absentee or does XYZ function. Owner B is either absentee or does ABC function. Beyond that, there will also be key employees that are important for you to create either, well, my preference is create really great relationships with right at the gate. You should do that with all of your employees, but these are the ones where they will be a make it or break it bottleneck point in the business if you lose them. So not only do you want to ensure that the relationship stays positive and that they feel engaged in their work and all of that, but on the flip side, you also need to have a plan in the event that they do leave. So that means ensuring that all roles are documented and have appropriate SOPs. That's not just for key employees, that's across every employee, especially if this business does not have strong ops or any type of tech backbone, which is very typical. So that you have an action plan for bringing on someone in the future if they do leave you, and then you're not left high and dry trying to figure out what did Bob do in his day-to-day. We know because we have a great document or video, videos in Trainual, whatever the case may be, to get our next person ramped up in that role.
Love it. Marley, can you just some couple abbreviations here? HR, what's AP represent?
Accounts payable,
Accounts payable, and then AR, accounts receivable.
accounts receivable.
Okay, cool. Just wanted to make sure we had those noted so people understood. And then you've got down below, you got PM estimators, project management.
Project management, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. And so right here, owner A obviously is not an absentee owner. He or she did HR, accounts payable, and insurance.
Right, which isn't a crazy amount, but it's
No.
still a role, right? So you would have to have
Absolutely.
someone in place with that if you wanted to step away fully.
Correct. And then
Fully
the
is quote unquote.
yes, and the spouse, not listed as an owner, but listed as general manager, has a great deal of job duties. So you might be able to find one operator or CEO to step in to fulfill both of these bullet points. But we know basically day one, we need to work on finding and identifying and putting that person in play. If we are not deciding to be owner operators. This is also important when we start looking at financials, because when you start looking at their adjustments and for EBITDA and payroll and all that great stuff, you need to make sure that they account for the fact that you're going to have to replace them. You cannot discount that because that doesn't get to be a positive in the column for their SDE when we're going to have to spend a lot of those dollars to replace them in the day-to-day.
And we'll see that later on. They did account for that. I don't know if they accounted for it in the right number amount that we feel is correct for those two roles. And we'll talk about that when we get there.
Yes.
Can I just jump back up to that real quick one more time?
Yeah.
I wanted to point out too, like you see that, so they're doing $20-something million in revenue with 10 to 12 employees, and they're going to go up to 14 to 15 employees. That does not, I'm pretty sure that does not include the owner or the general manager, right? So those are two pieces. But mind you, this is a GC company. They're just managing projects and they're hiring ads, like they're subbing out all their contractors. So they're doing the high end stuff on a property or a building or a construction site. So that's why there's not, I mean, to run a business like this, if you had all your employees from top to bottom, I mean, you would need 1,000 plus employees to do what they're trying to do, right? That's not what they do. They hire out and they're doing work. And Jalen can talk to you about that because that's what he does with his business. He has a cleaning company business where he just hires out the work. He gets the contracts in place. He puts the quotes in place. He does the estimates and he runs the back end. And then he brings on people. That's what this business is doing, just to kind of give you a better understanding of the GC world.
Absolutely. And really quickly, we were talking about revenue, because it was definitely me that was spoke at the top of it. I think the 27 mil one was the one out of Arizona we were originally looking at. I think this one they're doing sub 10 million in revenue, but still phenomenal for 10 employees.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Again, right here, he's talking about continuity. So to the best of the owner's knowledge, all employees will basically stay on after a transition. That is a key conversation to have with your sellers. That's a question you'll ask every single one is, do your employees know that you're trying to sell? Yes or no? Most of the time it is no. And then it's kind of creating a game plan as to how you're going to communicate that to the team. I prefer doing that before you close so that you can start building that relationship. You could show them that you're not just going to come in and just start cutting people at the knees and getting rid of folks. And then have a true proper transition and stabilization period post close.
And based on like 10.3 there, folks, like seems like they take care of their employees, right? Like they're matching their retirement at 3%. They've got we don't know how many vacation, we don't know paid how, like we don't know everything, but this is a true organization that has health insurance for them, that has payroll, that has retirement, that has a lot of things, which one shows me that they've got a pretty good structure. They've got an HR structure. They've got a true business, right? And obviously at 20 something million, you wouldn't really have a true business without knowing how that works. So
Absolutely. Something that was important to us was that the company was relocatable, especially since they're virtual. Like they of course have they have some warehouse spacing, I think it is. There's some facilities, but that's just set up closest to them because it's just easier for them. There normally in any sim will be a section on competitors, like to the best of their knowledge, who is a competitor in their space. Let's see if they. So here they didn't list exact competitors since they are national and not local in any area, but they do have a nice section that says, some customers may prefer using a local GC over using our services, even though technically they end up hiring out to a local GC anyway. It's important to make sure that there's no legal issues or liabilities in a business. That doesn't always get disclosed the sim level. Normally that's during due diligence, but that's an important question to ask, especially if you are purchasing stock and the actual entity, not the assets of the business. And then we're moving into financials, which is the fun
and this
stuff.
is where I shut down, and I'll let you do your thing.
Yeah, so they provided a summary profit and loss for 4 years. Wonderful. As we've gone over before, we want at least 3 previous years for our P&Ls, for our taxes, and for our balance statements. Something that I recommend when you are asking for those, specifically for the profit and loss and balance statements, is I like to ask for direct exports from their QuickBooks accounting software, whatever they use, as an Excel and as a PDF. That's important to me because that means there's double the export and a lot less likely that anyone's going to augment the numbers in those documents. And then you can very easily check to see, at least at a high level, that the numbers tie out across taxes, balance sheets, and your profit and loss. Is it helpful to go through this section by section again, Shane, or?
Let's in the chat, if you'd want us to go section by section, just say yes. Or if you want us to do more of a broad thing, just say broad or whatever, detailed or broad, whatever you want to say in there. Just so we can kind of get an understanding if we want to dive in heavy, or you can just come off mute and do that too. That's fine.
Yeah. Specific questions about what you see on any of these line items. I don't think I can see the chat because I'm sharing the screen. Let's see.
Broad. Let's see. Yeah, Alexandros said broad.
Okay.
Anyone else want anything more in depth, or are we okay for the most part? Broad. Okay, cool. So we can
Okay,
talk.
great.
Yeah, let's do that.
So top section is always going to be your top line revenue before anything comes out. After you have your top line revenue, you're going to have a section called your COGS, or cost of goods sold. And then coming out of those costs, you end up with your gross profit. Coming down, we will have our expenses section. Everything I see here is expected. There's nothing that sticks out that is missing in particular. Payroll expenses look correct and in line with having, 10 to 14 employees. Pension expenses, because we talked about how they match. I don't know what professional fees are, probably their license upkeep for the GCs. Yeah, everything looks pretty standard. So we would take the gross profit, subtract the expenses from the gross profit, and we are left with our net ordinary income year over year. So these years, which one? We have 2 years that look very suspect to me. We are ending up with only 97 grand in 2020 and 2022 for cash flow. So that's peculiar to me. Right. And then we have 2 years that are, not even hitting $1 million. So this is where the adjustments are going to come into play when they start talking about their EBITDA, adjusted EBITDA. Okay, let's see. Here we go. All the adjustments. Net ordinary income, net income. Yeah, okay. So down here in the adjustment section, we come down and see the main reason why their cash flow is so low, and that's because they are paying themselves an extraordinarily high salary. So on W-2, they are paying themselves nearly $1 million a year. This was another very interesting case now that I'm re-looking at this. So this is just the owner.
Owner A, not the
Owner
spouse.
A. The spouse was somehow paying themselves through an SEP as an outside consultant.
What is an SEP?
It is a special pension plan, which I was not even aware before looking at this that you were able to pay yourself at that high of a amount. I still don't fully understand it. It's not something that I've come in contact with prior to this, but I definitely went on a deep dive months ago whenever we were originally looking at this.
I mean, smart move, right?
Yeah.
So I can see those being adjustments. That's great to hear.
Yes. I see someone said I missed that chat. I don't think you are because it's an IRA account. Yes, so that is true, but it's what is it called?
Special one. It's
Yeah,
simplified employee pension.
Yes. And all of those funds are for one person. It's not for the collective company.
Right. I was just saying, because it's a SEP IRA, but I think they're still subject to normal IRA limits for a year.
Exactly.
That's really high.
Yeah, which I believe is
Maximum
69, 70,000, something like
Something
that.
like it. Something
It's
like
So
that.
wild.
It says maximum compensation that can be considered for contributions is 345,000.
Oh, well, there you go. That's still far beyond that. I'm not their tax specialist.
That's weird. Unless
So
that's for the business, maybe the business can put that much in. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how that works.
it's not because they have it noted as a consultant compensation, which you technically
It's not an employee, so that's weird.
no. So again, super strange, something that you would want to dive into and understand. But when you do these add backs, it is a much healthier business, right? So our cash flow is now at 1.6, 2, 1.1, and 1.8, which is what you would expect for a business of this size. I think my only thing that I probably don't necessarily agree with is that 275,000 a year is going to be enough to replace both of those people. So that would be a point that we negotiate. And it probably needs to be closer to like 350,
Yeah,
354.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you're gonna bring two people on, most likely, or one kick-ass person who
Yeah.
can do it all, which
Precisely.
yeah.
Yes, I am not a CPA, and I do not.
Yeah. Anything we say in
Never
here
claims
is
to be.
talking through. Like we're not giving you don't buy this business because we say to. Like
No, never. But yeah, to fully tear, like, kind of tease apart what they're doing,
Mhm.
you do need a CPA, and you should use a CPA, or uh, what are they called? CPA, FPA, a financial professional.
Yeah.
During your due diligence process, especially if there's wonky things that you just can't tease apart on your own.
Right. And like the business we're buying right now, we didn't bring one in because Marley and our other partner Jay, like the numbers were there. So the difference between some businesses, like the one we're buying right now, and we can talk about that once we fully purchase it. We could talk about all the back end stuff, but essentially, like not all didn't have anything like this, right? It literally had an not even an Excel sheet. It literally he had an export from all the different payment services and Thrivecart, and that was it. That's all that financials, right? And then
And
like
his personal bank
his
statements.
his personal bank statements because he didn't do it through an LLC. So
Yes.
and it's like linked to his PayPal and to his Stripe account, and they're all personal accounts and like Venmo, like all these different things. And so that's why we were able to get this business for the price we're getting it because we have to do a lot of figuring things out. But that's the beauty of going and finding a business that's a mess financially or structurally and then fixing those things because now you've just flipped the switch, especially if you put tech in, like Courtney was saying, you put that tech in there and now you're just like you're through the roof. So
Okay. Again, this is just a continuation or this profit and loss based off of the same like magical numbers that they were discussing earlier in the sim. This would be a big conversation point for me is how are we going to double our sales basically over
well, and I was
in
saying
one year.
that's 4 months of sales, and so they were using that from what I remember is because that's when they put this on the market, right? So they used
Yes.
year to date 2023 and year to date 2024. What they should have done was they should have used year to date from April 23 to 2024 and from April 22 to 23 for these first two. That's how they should have used it to get the full picture. And then you can actually understand, and then you can extrapolate all these pro formas. That's why this says 2024 P. That's the pro forma, the projections, and then 2025 projections.
Yes, exactly. Yeah,
Which it cannot happen if they hire only two more employees. They need to hire like at least double the number of the employees to double the revenue, correct? There are like 12, and they say they're gonna hire two more,
yeah,
but they expect to double the profits. Like it's like impossible.
yes, exactly. Now their like ratios are a little different since they oversee subs. So like perhaps each virtual GC could handle, I don't know, 10 to 15 clients instead of 2 or 3 local clients at a time.
Mhm.
But even still, like doubling just is not going to make sense. Even if you don't have to double the bodies, you still have to create processes and structure to scale to that level of revenue. Because right
to
now,
find the
again,
clients.
yeah, to find the clients, to scale the business, to handle that influx, like all of it.
And Marley, could you go up real quick and just tell us what
Yeah.
the sales are for like the actual sales from 2024 or 2023, like
Yeah.
for the year?
1 second.
We have the annual.
Annuals for 2023. So 8.6.
So it's going up, right? So like if they're
Oh, so it's not huge.
it's not a huge because that was only 4 months, right? 4 months
Yeah.
was about 4K. April, yeah, 4 months.
Yeah.
Or not 4K, 4 million. So it's not terrible, right? Because we're not talking about in the next 3 months you have to double it, right? They're talking about in the next 8 months they have to double that. So it's doable, right? It just depends on if they're gonna keep trending upward, or if they have contracts in place already, or if they're getting new clients, or who knows, right?
Mm-hmm. But even still, going from 8.6 even to 10 million is still a considerable jump when you don't know, like, what are you doing different to get that additional revenue?
Right. And that would be the question
Or,
you
I-
have, sellers.
or I'm thinking why they have not done these numbers yet. Maybe it's like an issue. Maybe they hit the ceiling and they say, okay, now we hit the ceiling. Now we're selling the company. We can't go
Yeah.
higher than that.
Yeah, and I believe that they were in their 70s, like they were ready to just retire and be
that's
done.
that's an issue.
Yeah. So, prime time for them to just start their retirement and have someone else come in and, that sees the potential and can set up those systems to support scaling the business.
Looks like a very stressful business. This one,
Yeah.
this business, because like it has like too many ups and downs. Employee retention and I saw one point that they spent like $64,000 in 1 year to hire new people, something like that.
Oh yeah,
And
for
then 1 year,
recruiting.
yeah, and 1 year it was 0. So maybe like I'm thinking like what's happening there? Why these ups and downs?
Yeah, that's likely because they don't have a true HR person on staff and they are outsourcing any type of additional headcount needs. So they're going to a recruiting firm and saying, okay, we need to add 3 heads this year. And they're paying that firm to place those folks. And it's likely, as you said, there's probably some retention going on as well. But that'll explain why 1 year it's 0 and 1 year it's 64. And it's just whatever is needed at that time.
Yep.
So these numbers are through April of this year. I mean, here we are in August. Like, can you get updated numbers, or is that like to see if they're like trending towards their projections, or is that like not a thing because the numbers are the numbers and that's what you have to buy it off of?
And that's a great question, right? So like we reached out to them around that time, right? It was around April when we talked to them. And maybe it was May, I think, actually. And so we were talking to them during that timeline. Now those numbers would be pretty valid, right? They wouldn't be too far off. But yeah, exactly. Now we're 4 months later. If they didn't sell already, okay, you need to give us a whole new T12, a whole new set of revenue for, like, we need all of that dated to T12, right? So trailing 12 from this past month. And that'll give you a better picture and you'll know, right? Like, are they trending the right way? If they're not, then that's business valuation has gone down.
And if they didn't sell, why they didn't sell already?
Yeah.
Like if that's such a good business.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Maybe they just want too high of a price, right? Maybe they're hovering at that, because they asked, we gave them, I think we gave them a 1 point. No,
We gave them 2.7. We gave them the highest of the range right out the gate.
Yeah, and he was saying that we already have. He said that we have an offer that's 3 times that amount. We were like,
It's
all
like,
right,
you should take that.
you should take that offer, right? Like,
100%.
like, have that. Good luck.
Yes, do it.
I hope you get.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that pretty much closes it out,
That
right?
basically sums it up. And it gives examples of balance sheets and
Assets.
whatnot as well. But we could talk through those another day since we're already at time. Sure.
Yeah.
Do
So we
the
can
stuff
start out the
meetings
next
more.
meeting kind of with that. Just go over that last chunk, just talk about that, and then we can go into whoever brings a deal. So like what I would love, are you guys getting value from this? Like if you can give us like a
Oh
thumbs,
yeah, of course,
cool.
of course.
That's awesome. So we would love, 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 love if we can get more people in here. So if you could all invite 5 people that you think would be that are looking into this world or you think might be interested in learning this stuff, we would love that because only we're only the 3 of us. We can only reach out so much, right? So if you can invite five people each, that would just be amazing. Make a couple posts about this and just invite people to it. We would really appreciate that because I know that what we're doing and based on the feedback, like we know that we're giving value. We want everyone to just come in and just be like, oh, cool. Because there's not much like this in our communities right now. And we want to grow this. And obviously it's got to be, our thing, right? So like all of us here that are here now, like we want this to be a community. We don't want it to just be like, a one-off and be done. But if we don't have enough people coming, then we want to make sure the value is there. So we would hugely appreciate any
Mhm.
any invites that you all could have. Like we would love to have 30 people in here next week and just
Mhm.
talk about 3 deals instead of the one, random deal that we have. So we'll have another one ready to go, but we would love it if all of you found a few deals that are possible opportunities. Um, One of the things that I was doing some research on, and we talked last week about being an owner operator and an owner investor. If you want to be an owner investor, the cash flow should probably be around 200K at minimum. If you want to be an owner operator, then you're probably okay at 120, right? Because you want to be cash flowing 10K a month for yourself as a person in the business, right? So keep that in mind as you're looking for these businesses. I would aim for a 200 plus if you want to be an uh, owner investor and you just want to buy the business and at some point place someone in it because you're gonna have to pay that person. Obviously, you're gonna scale up, but you always want to start ready to go to bring in an ops person right away.
Can I ask if we find such a business, do you want us to send it with an email to you, or we keep it and we bring it up like on the next meeting? And the other question, can we set a link with someone we want to invite on this Zooms, or how do we do that?
Yeah,
Can you set a meeting with us or a link, something?
yeah. So we have just something we're gonna send out an email, or Jalen's gonna send one out. It's gonna have a couple things in there for you guys. So it'll have the link to the next registration. We're gonna be making a new set of registrations after next meeting because that's the end of like the six-part series. So I'll do a new one that can get everyone. So you'll see emails every week and the reminders. But Jalen's gonna send out an email with the new invite, so you can just share that email with anyone if you want, or you can just take the link out of there. There's also going to be, Jalen, you created a calculator, correct?
Yeah, we created a couple different things, but yeah, for sure. We created one for helping people with avatars, but we've also created something for you guys to submit deals and get an idea of if it's a good deal or not. So like, you can pre-screen it for you. So it's all
Yeah,
just
That's
tools
good.
to help you
Good.
guys.
yeah,
Yes.
It's gonna save a lot of time.
Yeah, and keep in mind,
And-
this is like a quick and dirty back of the napkin map calculator. Just
That's good because
yeah.
we're not gonna bring all the garbage
Yeah.
on the Zoom,
Yes, this will
Gonna
help.
start cleaning out.
yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
this
So
will
yeah,
aid
so
that.
sorry. So yeah, we'll have that out to you, and it should be pretty self-explanatory. And what we'll do is we'll also go over it in the next Zoom, just in case there's any clarity issues. We'll go over it in the next Zoom exactly how it works. Unless Jalen, you want to create a Loom real quick to go over it like step by step, that'll be amazing. And then we can send that out, and you all can have access to that. And share that around too. Like give it to people, let them use it. Just have them it'll be on Google Drive, I'm sure, or Excel. I don't know how it's coming out, but have them make a copy. And that should be super helpful to continue these conversations.
Okay, sounds good.
Cool. And in between, folks, if you have any questions or thoughts or ideas or concerns, like just reach out to us. Like if you have a business that like after you've gotten the sim, you don't want to wait on it and you want to talk more about it, like reach out. Like let's see if we can look at it with you, take a look. If it's one of those type situations. But but yeah, like we want to see you next week, and we're going to be continuing doing stuff like this, and we're going to start growing and adding more weekly Zooms and things like that as well to give you more opportunities. So like we'll probably have another one at some point about acquisitions or things like that. We're trying to grow this out, but this is where we're going to start until we can get enough traction with everyone and give them some value. So Awesome. Thank you all for being here. We really appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank
See
you.
you
for the
next
Thank you
week.
so much.
See you next
Yes.
week.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.